whenever one of these RFAs gets signed, immediately people wait for us to have some sort of comment on it. And I feel like I've been labeled as this irrational lunatic that's going to lose his mind.
That's the thing. I don't think that at all. Like personally.
Well, there's some truth in it.
No. It just, you've said all along, and I'll put it on a tee for you. You said all along, how come these other organizations can find a way to get a value contract out of their young players?
Exactly.
Well, it's weird when you're looking and it's like 10 years, $10 million, and then all of a sudden McAvoy's at like 3 years.
4.9.
Yeah.
And today, Brayden Point, 3 years at 6.75. For those of you wondering, he had 41 goals a year ago and 92 points. Okay?
Yes.
That's how good this guy is. 40 goal scorer, 92 points, two-way guy, plays the middle of the ice.
You talk to anybody in Tampa, he'll say they're their best. He's his most reliable player, best player.
Yeah. Right.
Never mind Kucherov, never mind any of them.
He's been compared to like Bergeron. Like that's where he's going. He's Patrice Bergeron 2.0.
But
23 years old.
Exactly, 23 years old.
So I was prepared for this. And what I've been saying the whole time is don't give me this, the game has changed. The RFAs are going to approach the system differently. No, they're not. It only happened here. It only happened here.
Well, it's shaping up to be that way.
It's shaping. Now, you got two hopes left.
Kachuk
and Rantanen. That's it.
They must be sitting at home saying, well, where'd their leverage go?
Absolutely. Now, their leverage is they can sit. And that's where this all started, was William Nylander decided, I'm not coming. Because there's blood on both hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's conflicting because, on one hand, I understand if you're a player, get whatever you can. You could be out of the league in 5 years, 10 years. You could blow your knee out and never play again.
Correct.
Get whatever you can. But clearly, Brayden Point decided today, I've gone as far as I want to go. Yeah. I want to play for my team. So I'll take the deal that's on the table. McAvoy could have sat. No, I want to be in Boston. Werenski could have sat. Columbus isn't winning anything this year.
Yeah.
He said, no, I'll take that deal. Brock Besser could have said, I'll call you on November 30th, Jimmy. Yeah. No. Okay, that's the deal you got. Sure enough, I'll take it. William Nylander said, I'm not doing that. That was his right, but he changed everything for his team and his team alone.
Right.
Because then Matthews got handed a blank check, and we know exactly what happened with Mitch Marner.
Right.
Mitch Marner getting paid more than $4 million per year, more than Brayden Point. I understand it's 3 years to 6, which is an important...
It's an important thing to point out.
Important context.
It really is.
But I believe in 3 years, he'll still be under team control, still be an RFA.
If you want to talk about 3 years, don't you look at it and say, you know what, if Tampa wins 2 cups and the Leafs can't get out of the first round, we have a serious problem here. This is the Leafs salary structure. That's what they decided to do. And if this team can't win with the way it is set up right now, I think the retrospective analysis can be, you know what the hell was the thinking here? They haven't won. They're not winning.
But
I think that's when you can go nuts and say, whether it's Boston, Tampa, or Toronto, whichever one of these teams can find a way to win, you'll be like, what a good job by that GM.
Right.
As of right now, they're not exactly winning Stanley Cups, and you're saying that's what they do here. It's great to say that Boston got these guys under value contract, but if they don't win with them, who cares really anyway?
You're right.
Just to say they got them under value contracts?
But we'll see.
If Toronto's going to win, everyone's going to say, Dubas took a chance, he got everybody locked up, and they won with it.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then you torch them.
Nobody will question if they do something special in the next couple years or have multiple years doing that. We keep saying this is the time. This isn't the growth time anymore. It's arrived. Everyone's getting paid. They're not rookies anymore. You're right. Retrospective analysis, we can go back and go, that team lost in the first round or lost in the second round, and that guy's making 10 or 11 or whatever, and this guy making 6.7 won a cup. We may do that. Who knows? But the Leafs have a salary structure in place right now. Everyone's under contract. They believe they've got a very good team. We believe they've got a very good team.
Yeah, and if they don't
go out
win,
and earn
then
it
we can turn back and say, well, this is just a waste. But this is a waste, the money that they
I
paid
will
these
say
guys.
this, though. One thing. Tampa, Boston, all of these teams that have been able to keep a structure and control within their own wheelhouse, or at least give themselves an opportunity to add players.
That's the whole point here. The players are the players.
Right.
At 10.9, 11.6, 6.9, or at 700 grand. They're still the players. So I hope the Leafs can find a way to win a cup. That'd be great.
Right.
But if they could be doing that on cheaper contracts and still win a cup. What their contract is not going to affect the way they play in the playoffs.
Right.
And also, if you have them on cheaper deals, how about you try to win 2 cups?
Right.
Or 3 cups?
Flexibility. Yeah.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
And listen, I kind of put the players aside here because the players are going to get what they feel like they can get, and they got it. So I'm not going to chastise the players that much. I think they could have maybe made it a little bit easier on themselves, on the team, et cetera, but they chose not to do that. It's Kyle Dubas who comes into the spotlight here. And what I wonder, and I've wondered this for a while, does he have the ability to be ruthless? I don't know if he does. We'll find out. Because being a GM in pro sports is not just about talent evaluation. That's a part of the job.
Making hard decisions.
Hard decisions, having presence, making sure players and agents respect you, maybe fear you a little bit, but also the dollars and cents count. Salary cap manipulation is a part of the checklist that comes with the gig. I believe Kyle's a smart hockey guy that's been around hockey for a long time. The reality is, before he took the job, he'd never negotiated a contract. You don't negotiate contracts in Sault Ste. Marie.
Well, you do, but it's a lesser scale.
No, you don't, though. We know how it is. There's no haggling over money. And with the Marlies, there's no negotiating with the Marlies. He's in the room.
Right.
He's learning. And I know he's got Pridham with him, and he's got Lawrence with him, Lawrence Gilman. He's got other people. Shanahan.
Right.
Shanahan's in there, too, but he never negotiated contracts before.
Right.
And these were big contracts, and they were tough contracts.
Yeah.
But I believe that Kyle Dubas is a smart hockey guy. Mm-hmm. And I believe he knows where he wants to build his team. I give him a lot of credit for having resolve in his belief of hockey.
Right.
Because he's not going out there and getting a bunch of guys that are 6'5", 250 because the rest of the hockey world wants him to.
Right.
I think that takes stones to say, no, I'm doubling down on this.
Right.
But being a GM, you got to be ruthless. You got to be Bill Belichick ruthless.
Yes.
I don't know if he's got that in him right now.
Well,
we'll find out.
I think.
So what is an example you're talking about? Like Nylander, you go ahead and you sit at home and we're not paying you.
No, that's an extreme example.
Or Mitch Marner, we're going to give you 2 weeks, or we're going to trade you.
But that's the thing. No, I think.
I don't know what kind of example.
An example of
yes.
ruthless, if he's not seeing what he likes, is trading one of the. Like you may, if they fizzle out this year, and that I don't think they will. So I'm going to preface my comments. But if it doesn't work out this year the way that they want, you got to make a decision with the coach and
the roster.
And the roster.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, you look at a couple of examples of the RFAs that just signed.
Right.
We've heard from a couple, they wanted longer-term deals. The GM said no. Like, Besser's an example. They didn't have enough cap space for a long-term deal. So we goof on Jimmy Benning, but he basically told Besser, this is what you're getting, man.
Yeah.
And Besser was like, all right.
Because that's what the option you come down to. It's either that or I don't get paid anything.
And what did we hear? Well, they can't convince Mitch to, they can't work it out on a 3-year deal. Okay. So the player dictated.
He wanted 9-something by all accounts, right? He wanted to break the barrier on
extreme.
That. Very extreme.
But
he's allowed to do that. We have to, he's allowed to.
Yeah, the players are allowed to do that. But the GMs are allowed to put their stake in the ground.
Dig in, too.
As well. Yeah. And, they...
Okay,
that's been very clear.
Let me ask you guys this. And
it's not just about these contracts either. At some point, maybe you got to trade a guy that goes against popular belief, or a guy that you don't believe in.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I brought up William Nylander. It's not going to be that, because I think he's going to have a great year. But it may have to be an unpopular decision, but that lays your stake in the ground. Be like, I'm doing this because this is what I see. Every manager makes tough decisions, and some of them work out, some of them don't. I don't know if there's a manager in the league that would feel they have a flawless reputation as far as...
None of
Ask
them
Mark
do.
Bergevin in Montreal.
None of them do.
Stones.
There's too many transactions and too many things that happen where you just can't... You don't hit on everything. You don't have a draft in the NHL. You're looking to get 2 players out of a draft.
No one's expecting anyone to bat 1,000.
No.
No one's expecting
No,
that.
but there is going to have to be where Kyle's put together this team, and he believes in it, and it looks real good on paper. They got to go out and do it. But if it doesn't work, then change will have to come, and he's going to have to make hard decisions. But you want to afford everyone the luxury of let's get to regular season and see how this really looks and plays out. It's frustrating as a fan and the media type and all that, covering it, going, okay.
The landscape has changed in one market.
Exactly.
That's what it appears.
And I keep hearing the word from other managers and people I talk to in the league, the Leafs are rogue. They do whatever they want. Doesn't matter if the marketplace is 6 for this player or whatever, that player got this and this. Fine. Live by that, but live by the sword, die by the sword too.
Right. Yeah. Well,
that's ultimately it.
And I think Kyle Dubas knew once he got to the third contract, he was losing the deal. Like I'm not freaking out about him overpaying Marner. I knew he was going to overpay Marner. Yeah. I think we all did. But I think the hope was that if this was truly where the game was going, it would be easier to digest if it was applying everywhere else.
Right.
And as of right now, it's not.
Right.
It's applied only in Toronto.
And the only saving grace, if there is one, is they're not matching years.
Well, and they got them on longer-term deals.
Right. That's the one thing that has to be pointed out. Cost certainty for your core, for the most part, is set for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Nobody sees that, though. They just see
understand that, but
$65 million.
But we have to point that out because I know, and it's ridiculous to say, Brayden Point isn't going to go from 6.75 to $19 million a year to bring up the. Do
you really think in 4 years he's making more than Kucherov?
You don't?
I'm not convinced of that.
I think he could. I think he could get to double digits.
I'm not convinced of that at all.
But let's say he gets to 10.5. He's still not caught up to Mitch.
Exactly. Well, that's the better one. Do you think Brayden Point in 4 years will make more than Mitch Marner is going to make this year?
I personally do.
I think he
you
could.
know, they always talk about the percentage of the cap, and like you look years beyond that. Like everyone was talking about Nylander's deal. Well, it's the percentage of the cap, and that's what Pasternak, blah, 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 and inflation. So you just go by that. I think so.
I think you can get above it, but it's not. My point is, it's not going to step ladder above McDavid out of nowhere. Like that's ultimately to get your ABV close to 11 from 6.75. It's got to go a lot higher.
I don't think it's going to go as high as people think it will.
Right, like
I think Tampa, again, they've got a system, they've got a way of working, and somehow all the players fall in line. And I wouldn't expect that to change in 3 years.
And somebody pointed out that Vasilevsky's still at 3.5. His deal kicks in next year.
Next year.
So they'll have to maneuver again to make money fit for the cap, but they'll get it done. Mm-hmm. Like this is a team that I think they're quite methodical. The Leafs have chosen to do a different way, and we have said this. At least their core is locked up.
Did they choose, or were they told this is what's happening? Because it's very different.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't believe for a second. I know they didn't choose for William Nylander to sit there until November 30th.
No.
They didn't choose for Mitch Marner to make $10.9 million on a 6-year deal. No chance they chose that.
That one, if you wanted to ram short term,
this is what's happening, and they took it.
Yeah, if you wanted to ram short term down everyone's throat, it probably would have looked a lot different. And you know, in hindsight, you could go back and say, would you have rather that the Leafs let William Nylander sit a whole season last year? Because I don't know if the kid would have taken in the 12th hour, what would he have taken?
I don't know what he would have taken.
We don't know. And we can't sit here and say, look back.
And again, now the Nylander deal is not really the big issue anymore.
It's not.
You know, like he's going to probably, I think he'll give you that contract in production. It was the way it went.
How they arrived,
right? And I always take heat.
The performance afterwards.
Yeah, last year he was terrible, and Nylander still has to prove himself again this year. But I think he will, and I think he's going to have a good season.
Yeah.
But the point was, when you consider the way that played out, it's not the end result in where Nylander is percentage wise compared to the rest of the league and where he's going. The Leafs clearly did not want to give him that deal. Right. They clearly didn't. That's why it took until November 30th. So they did not evaluate him at that price. Eventually, they got there because they obviously felt they had no other choice.
Right.
So the Leafs didn't feel that comfortable with that deal, but they ended up giving it to him because of the deadline, and we know how it all played out. But
you know, they're locked up.
The team's good, and they're the players. I'm not worried about the players' performance. Players are going to perform.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, the other teams are working at a built-in advantage here. And again, I think, looking back on it retrospectively, probably what should have happened, even though it wasn't going to work out this way timeline-wise, was Nylander should have gone last because he's your third best player of the three. So then you could get to a point where you say, this is all you got. Like there's no, you can't call us and say we want an extra 500 grand. This is what's left. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And then it may have been a very different situation.
I don't think that was an option. It wasn't an
Probably
obvious.
wasn't. Yeah, Matthews may have said, I'm not negotiating right now, or Marner. And then
Nylander's was up first. He had to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I got it. I hear
it's
you.
how it
I'm
worked
saying
out.
in a perfect world, that would have been the case.
It's how it worked out, and you've got those players locked up. Yeah, Brayden Point's deal looks fantastic for a 40-plus goal scorer, elite centerman who, is a difference maker. Mitch Marner's an elite winger. He's a difference maker. Matthews an elite scorer. Like they're all getting paid. It's just, it's hard in a vacuum to go 0.675. He makes less than William Nylander, technically on paper.
Yeah, for the next 3 years, he's making
Right.
less than William Nylander.
Right. Now, again, how it looks after 6 years and 7 years.
But still, we keep
It
hearing
just-
you live in the now.
You live in the now.
Everyone's
It's-
changed. The RFA world has changed.
I
No, it
understand
hasn't.
that. It's,
And don't give me the state tax garbage either. I don't want to hear it. It's bogus. It always has been bogus.
people make money, and you know
But
what?
you don't. You could still ask for whatever you want.
Yeah.
And these players up here are getting paid in America and living in a Canadian economy, and the signing bonuses are off the charts for the Maple Leafs, which is worth a lot.
Yeah.
These other players aren't getting the same kind of 95% of the cash on July 1.
Yeah.
So it's an even
You're right.
playing field. I don't
Yeah,
buy
they've
into that
leveled it.
garbage.
The Leafs, luckily, have the financial, I guess,
Wherewithal to be able to do it.
wherewithal to flex their muscle that way and go, yeah, you're going to make $700 grand a year, but here's $15 million July 1st, Austin Matthews, and another $15 million next July. Yeah, they can do that. So Austin can get that money working for himself. Same thing with Mitch. Their financial people probably advised them in that way.
Right.
Get as much as, let's get it working here.